lots of people that want to add information. We're going to try to stick to the topic, and then while we're on that topic, use the raise feature or function. It's within, if you look in your participants section, and then at the very bottom it says raise hand or lower hand, and I will keep an eye on that and let Steve know who has things they would like to add. If you could just make sure if you're not speaking, you mute yourself, because there's a lot of background noise when there's this many people. And then we just would like, as a common agreement, there's a lot of information here. We'd like to make sure it stays confidential at this point. We want to have a really good discussion and help support the creation of the rest of the plan.
All right, cool. Okay, so is everyone okay with the raise hand deal? If we are, then let's move forward here. So Mrs. Metzger is going to be typing notes, not necessarily in a live way that we're going to see here, but as we solicit some feedback from everybody, she's going to be taking down that feedback on this document here. Okay, so we're going to start off with schedule area. And this is kind of a big topic. So, you have previous emails sent out by Allen Park that kind of detail, what the plans are at this point anyway, which is either a face-to-face option, or you can choose a fully virtual option. And a lot of this is still going to depend on what the state is going to be doing. But recently, we've also been talking about a 5-week delayed start schedule. And I'm also going to show you a schedule here in a second from Rochester that would kind of go along with that. And the thought would be that instead of starting on September, I believe it was 2nd, we were scheduled to start, we would have a delayed start and not come back till October the 5th. And we would kind of take a look, make sure the buildings are ready, give us more time to prepare all those good things. We're not really sure if that's the direction the state's going to let us go in, but that's a kind of a thought, and you can see from around the area some districts are starting to head in that direction. So we would like some feedback on that, from the parent perspective. What would a delayed start, look like from your end, or any issues it might cause, and then also from the teacher's perspective, what does that sound like to you? So this is the part where you'll raise your hand.
Hey, and Steve, just when we're talking about delayed start, we're also talking, we would be going to school virtually during those 5 weeks. It just,
yes,
the
right.
Part is delayed start. All right, so Deb Green's was the first one that listed. Go ahead, Deb.
You answered it a little bit by talking about how we would be virtual for the first 5 weeks, but if we did a delayed start, does the 30 school day process where we have to have all the special education students with current IEPs through Allen Park who come into us from out of district, does that still apply, or does the 30 days start after that time? And my concern with that is typically if we get students, well, all the time when we get students from out of state, they require initial evaluations, and at times, especially if they have emotional disorders or other things, we need teacher input for that information, and we would have very minimal information for that. So I guess my question would be is how does that 30-day placement and the special education and the count day all impact if we did a delayed start?
Great. Thank you.
Lionel, I hope I said that right.
It's Linnell.
Sorry.
I personally am in favor for the starting the 5 weeks later, but I guess I was questioning what the virtual learning will actually be like. Because I know I was told it won't be anything like the spring. So I guess my question is, it would depend on how that would work, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to take a look at a sample schedule in just a few minutes here after we get some feedback. And we're going to allow you guys to take a look at that and give us feedback from that sample schedule as we try to kind of figure out what we're going to do for a virtual schedule.
Okay.
Marlene Scott?
Yeah, well, I had the same question about what the virtual learning was, but also I feel like in one of the surveys, maybe there was something alluded to, like if parents needed childcare, like would there be any support for that, or would the expectation be that every family needs to figure out their own childcare?
Sue Clark, and if you could put your hand, if you go back into the raise hand and put it down after you've spoken, so we know the next time that if you have something to say. Sue Clark.
There we go. Okay, sorry. So my thing is just to, as far as the way that it's done, that my daughter has issues typing, and to have it solely all online, that's just really the big thing I have to say is just if there's a way to maybe not have it so online and have workbooks available or something, because these little kids just don't have the typing skills, and that's a whole nother struggle that I'm sure not just me, that other parents have.
Yeah, and we're not really answering questions, but I'll just throw this in that the normal supply of all workbooks for the programs, Journeys and Math and Focus, are ordered, and they are on the way, and we will have them available regardless.
Beth Wesley.
Hi, I'm the first teacher to talk after the parents. So I just wanted to answer to the parents that the teachers went through a really wonderful training at the end of June, and they learned a lot more techniques. I mean, you had to have them in the past, but so it wouldn't be a lot of typing. They learned how to use like Flipgrid and some other things where there's a lot more strategies, a lot more tools that the teachers have in their bags now, thanks to that training. So I'm just going to tell you that. But my question was assessment. September is usually our big assessment month. Are we ready to do NWEA online? Did we sign up for the MAP reading fluency to get some reading levels? That's my question, is how are we going to do assessment? Because usually that takes place in September.
Okay.
Well, I think we could probably say at the very least, K and 1 is not going to do NWA this year. We're going to use more informal and other assessments to assess them, but it's a really good question for everybody else.
2.8, excuse me, we have already paid for NWEA and we've committed to it. And according to NWEA, they are capable and ready to conduct their assessments fully online.
Okay. And then Julie's iPhone, whoever Julie is.
Hi, it's Julie Hegedus. I'm with Arno Elementary. I'm the previous treasurer for the last 5 years and a parent volunteer. I guess I'm a bit different than the majority here so far, in that I would support the children going back at the normal start of school year, since typical flu season usually shows up later. And I have actually more concerned about the October, November, December timeframe versus the September timeframe. And how do we plan to handle things when we get a positive case in the school around COVID? I guess I have one other question, if I could. It's just around the affinity that the teachers built with the children last year, and to go online, I think was you guys rocked it and totally nailed it as far as supporting the children, and the staff at Arno was fantastic to do that. But I have concerns around the affinity or lack of affinity that the children would have with brand new teachers starting the school year online. I think there'd be a better opportunity for that social interaction, even if it's at a smaller class size or some other staggered type schedule versus a complete delayed start.
That's everybody, Steve.
Oh, is everybody? Okay, great. Okay, let's take a look at the Rochester schedule from Rochester Schools. This is, and this is just one of, many things that are out there, but this is the elementary remote learning schedule.
Sorry, Steve, I need to break in. You
Yeah,
missed my
go ahead.
hand raise. I'm doing hand raise, just hand raise, not a button. If
Okay,
I can go back for 1 second. I want to echo Beth Wesley's sentiment that we were trained, and I think that what we need to think about as far as the option of delayed start, or if we have to start and go back online, is we were trained with that week-long training, and that we have to think back that in that March episode, we were all in a complete emergency situation. So what we had to put out there, I think we did a good job with putting it out there, but we were all struggling as much as the parents and the kids were struggling. We were just on the other side of it. And I feel like if we went for a delayed start, I think that one thing that would be in benefit would be that we have the opportunity to see how the other schools in other places that have a higher rate right now are faring. And we have the opportunity to see what's working for them, what's not working for them, instead of us being the guinea pigs on that. We can kind of check it out first and then gear what we're going to do to that. I'm sorry for interrupting, Steve.
Oh, no, that's great.
Sorry,
Okay.
can I chime in too? I thought I had my hand up as well, but I'm not sure what happened. I also feel like committing to 5 weeks is a great option. Again, it does put us at a time, a place to kind of buy some more time. I'm just worried about, in a couple of weeks, we're back to the same position. We have tensions rising with parents trying to figure out what to do with their kids, if we're going back or not. That has caused, I think, a lot of stress amongst the community and parents waiting to figure out what to do and what they're going to do with their kids. So I do really like that option. I am just concerned about the 5 weeks and whether we'll find ourselves kind of back in the same position within a couple weeks again. So that's what I just want to share.
Deb Green has her hand back up, Steve.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I brought up the 30-day points. I want to introduce myself too. I didn't really quite know where I fit at first. I believe I'm going to be in Arno more next year. But for the people who don't know me, I've been the district psychologist my entire career. Allen Park has finally taken on a second psychologist, so I will become the elementary psychologist starting this upcoming year. So while I will be in Arno a couple of days a week, I actually work in all 3 areas. And, I have to also put in my thing about the 5 weeks. If we're putting in opinions, I know one parent commented it's going to be really hard to get going without having that relationship with the teacher. And I also feel like some of the students who struggle the most with things, even whether it be making relationships or kind of recouping what they lost over the summer, those are some of the kids, not all, but some of the kids that we lost very quickly in the online learning project. And so while it can be beneficial, and I know that the fall is going to look different and there's a different sense of accountability, I think that for students who struggle to learn, starting off online could make it even more of a struggle for those students.
All right, do we miss anybody else? There's no more hands raised on the participant thing.
All right, it's a big topic for sure, and a very important one. Okay, anyways, going back to the remote learning schedule. So, so I believe someone had made the comment that it's not going to be like spring, and they would be correct if we do go to a remote learning schedule, either by choice, if we take a delayed start, or if, the governor just shuts everything down again and we're kind of forced into it. We're looking at more of a, I don't want to call it a normal day kind of schedule, but we're looking at it an all-day academic type of day that wouldn't necessarily, like Mrs. Wesley said, be all online where you're doing things where you're typing and things like that. So if you could just take a couple of minutes, we're gonna want some feedback on this one as well. Again, this is not ours, but give us some feedback. Look at the blocks where you have reading, math. You can also assume that there would be live daily sessions with the teachers. That's not really established yet, but that would be, something that we would have, as well as video tutorials and, other outside resources, that kind of thing. So if you could just take a look at it and give us just some of your thoughts.
Hey, Steve, I have a couple hands. Do you want to just give them 30 seconds or so for everybody to get a chance to look at it? Do you want me to start calling?
Yeah, why don't we just take a couple? Yep. You also notice on the bottom, specials will alternate weeks, so they don't really have that built into it necessarily like an everyday thing. Okay.
All right, Stacy S.
So how would the situation be handled multiple students with two parents that are working outside the home, being able to stick with this schedule every day with a more, not very fluctuating. You wouldn't have a whole lot of room. I know back in the spring, I kind of had it set up where one child would do something during this time, another child would be working on this, and I was still working from home as well. And it was very difficult. I'm now back in the office and would have to figure out how to handling both students and working. So do we have something that we would be assisting for both parents that are working outside the home again?
Okay, that's a great question.
Marlene Scott?
Yeah, so I guess along like similar lines, I have two daughters and they were in the same grade but in different classes, so doing different things at the same time. And I actually had a schedule for them that I like had them stick to, but like it would be interesting, like to know how much of this is live instruction. First of all, it was very overwhelming and exhausting, and I was also working from home at the same time, and because I'm a high school teacher. And so this, I think, like at first glance, like this looks like a parent's full-time job to be doing with their child. So it's just really concerning. Same thing, a parent that, works or is just not capable of helping their child all day long. I feel like there needs to be some asynchronous things that kids can be doing that they are not doing school all day like normal, because it's not normal.
Okay, thank you.
Linnell?
Hi. I was one of my daughter's teachers. She sent out a lesson plan on the Friday or Sunday before the week, and then you knew what had to happen that whole week. And what I would prefer, and I've talked to a lot of parents, is if the teachers put up a video that could be accessed at any point in time during the day. And I know a lot of teachers will teach the lesson themselves, which my kids prefer if the teacher actually teaches it, as opposed to finding a video on YouTube that kind of goes with the lesson, but not exactly hits it. And you would think it's more fun that way, but they actually preferred the teacher to teach them. And then the teacher can stop and say, do whatever problem. If we have our workbooks, do problem number 1. And then she or he could go back on and work through the whole problem. And you could see if they did it right. And then that way parents could also access it, as opposed to if they're learning through a Zoom meeting, unless you're sitting there, you don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm older and I do not know how to do math this new way. And so it was really hard for me to help my son, because to do it the way that they're learning, they learn it in school now. So that's kind of things I was hoping for, that we would have an overview all week of what the kids would be learning, maybe what pages had to be done, and then maybe each day lessons were put up there that we could access at our convenience. And that would work for parents who were working or parents who were home.
Thank you.
So I will say, to answer a little bit of what Marlene and Linnell said, the district did purchase a K-12 subscription to Screencastify, which is a screencasting software that a lot of teachers used last year. And I know that was included in the week-long training as well. So that is something that I'm sure would be a greater focus this year than it was last year. So.
Thank you.
John, that allows them to record, correct? Like the lesson?
Allows them to record and demonstrate, and then that can be played back at any time, yeah.
Sue Clark.
All right. So as a parent, my daughter's going to be in 3rd grade, and I have a son in middle school. This schedule gives me anxiety that is it's so overwhelming that, much like what Linnell said, is just to have something that is maybe more accessible and a convenience, or like a recorded thing, and just have a syllabus almost to, so that children can do it as the parents can help them. Because this to me is so overwhelming. It stresses me out just to look at it. So that's how I feel about something like this, that I'm more on where Linnell has touched on with the schedule, more accessible when it's convenient to the parent.
All right, thank you.
Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Solkowski. I got in late. My computer was taking forever. I'm a teacher and a parent at Lindeman. And I was just going to answer, to what I see when I see the schedule is I see the teachers actually live instructing, I could be wrong, during these times. So it's more, to me, something where, we learned in our training to put the kids in small groups where they can do discussion and bring them back. And to me, this just looks more like it's what I envisioned my classroom would look like online, more of me doing instruction where the parents, yes, you'd have to monitor to make sure they're on, but the teacher would be, I think, leading everything and checking the students' work during that time. I don't know, Steve, am I right? I don't know. That's how I envisioned it. Like, it's like a live day with the teacher being live most of the time with the student.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too. And I also would say, like you said, there's small groups too. So there might be times that some kids are off doing work at home independently, and then you're pulling a breakout group of 4 or 5 kids to do a reading group kind of thing. So you're right. So it wouldn't necessarily be that whole reading block. It's everybody online the whole time.
Right.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree 100%, with both of you, and that's kind of how I envisioned it when we rolled this out also, taking the opportunity, which is why we've invested in programs that allowed us to do videos and recordings and do live streaming, so that teachers have the opportunity to actually interact with their kids. We're able to share screens now and the whole bit, so there's no reason, why we really need to put that back out without the instruction piece to our families or even the students alone.
I'm sorry, as a teacher personally too, I need to be able to evaluate. So I don't want to just always put up a video of myself. I want to teach them and then have them do it back to me.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, I certainly think that there are opportunities to do, some of the asynchronous work where like you're putting a video out, like I think it was Linnell that said like on a Sunday night, you're putting something out to your class that says, hey, this is what we're going to do. Let me show you how to do it. And then here are some ways to practice it. And then when you're in the live session, you can have the kids going through it in a large group, and then you can break off into smaller groups of students. So I think that there are a little bit with the hopefully with some of the training that you guys got, and then the training that's going to be continued on our first PD day, the consulting company is actually coming back for that first PD day for a few hours. So there would be opportunities for both ways, but but it's an interesting to hear the parent perspective on this as well too. So thank you.
That's Wesley.
I just wanted to address the parents that were concerned, just to explain a little bit more about this schedule. So I've been also taking some courses at some workshops at RESA, and from a coach's perspective. And one of the things is that this schedule is actually meant to try to help parents because it provides organization. And so again, they get a week-long schedule, like on a Saturday or Sunday ahead of time. And then this, where it says professional meetings, one of the things RESA called it is like morning meeting, or it used to be like carpet time or whatever. So what you're doing is explaining to the child what today's assignments are going to be. So that child has, the teacher has the whole class online, you're doing a whole, this is what we're doing today kind of thing. And then the first thing you need to do, so that it's taking some of that pressure off the parent who has to set up the day for the child by the teacher interacting in that it's called professional meeting, but it's called morning meeting and things like that by Risa. And that helps the parent to not have to be now do this, now do this, now do this kind of talk. And then like in a block where it says like reading, that's where the teacher would use those tools of like the Screencastify, where you recorded yourself doing the lesson. And then because it was not very successful to try to do a lesson with 30 kids listening to you and all kinds of noises and dogs barking and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to present the lesson in Screencastify. Then you're going to meet with small groups of children so they know your time is 8:30, Johnny's time is 9 o'clock, that kind of stuff, so that the children are getting more individual attention that way, plus getting a video that they can keep playing over and over if they don't understand it while they're waiting for their turn. So, and then the lunchtime at the same time, that was also meant to help parents, because then all of your children in every grade are taking lunchtime at the same time. So it looks overwhelming, but actually something like this was written up to try to provide organization to help the parents, you know, keep the kids on track, and then end the day at 3 o'clock and not have it going on until 7, 8 o'clock at night trying to get assignments done all day. That was just, I just wanted to explain that.
Thank you, Beth.
Deb Green.
Thank you. I have a couple of notes here, and so I'm trying to take in what we've talked about as well as to think about things. But one of the questions that I have is, how do you document absences through this? Because I know we're keeping track of that. I know personally for me as a parent, when I was working at home in the spring, unless I had specific meetings, it was all hands on deck with my students. Another mom mentioned she has a middle school student and then one going into 3rd grade. I will actually have one going into 9th grade and one going into 3rd grade. And for me, it was all hands on deck during the day. During their lunch is when I worked. And after their school day was over was also when I worked until 7 or 8 at night. This schedule is pretty intense, even though you might only see kids from like 9 to 9:30 in the smaller groups. Something still has to be done with the kids from 8 to 9 and then from 9:30 on. So while the breaks are there, just kind of giving you a piece, because this is very much how my kids' district had it structured from March until the end of the year. It was phenomenal. The structure worked really well. Everything was very predictable. I think at max, between the 3 of us, we had 13 Zoom meetings in one day between the 3 of us, and we were able to balance it and kind of work it through. And every morning we had a really good plan. It was exhausting and it is daunting. And I have one very talented learner and I have one very struggling learner. And my struggling learner really struggled and needed a lot of one-on-one support. And my talented learner really started to struggle a few weeks in. So while he was maintaining and doing well initially, things really started to trail off. So again, just providing food for thought of what's available and how this works. Again, the structure is fantastic. I mean, every day at 3 o'clock, my kids were celebrating and throwing their papers up in the air, and it was a fun day, but that doesn't mean that parents end then. Sometimes, like in my case, that was when my full workday began, is because I could step away from that. So that, along with absences, I was also wondering about that particular day on Wednesday where it says learning resources and student support as well as ancillary groups. Is that when services such as speech and OT and resource room are expected to provide the services? And if so, do you know, I know again, this is Rochester stuff, but do you know what that would look like again for those struggling learners? So that's another question that I have. Thank you.
Karen Brooks.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay. Mine kind of bounces off of Deb's. Is I think that it's a great plan and everything looks good for the structure, but I just want to always keep in mind, like, I know this looks great in a general ed setting, but to keep in mind, like in a special ed setting, like I'm in or Kathy's in, our students this isn't feasible for them. So if this is the plan, of course, something else would be needed for our other students. Just want to make sure that it doesn't get agreed upon, and then that's what everyone has to do, because it just wouldn't work for some of our kids who have to be held down by their parents to sit in front of the screens for an entire day, or even though there are breaks, they would have to be more, and a lot of different things. So that I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Marlene Scott?
Yeah. I have one suggestion maybe for this, because after you explained kind of like, okay, part of this would be them, maybe watching a pre-recorded lesson, and then part of it would be small groups. That 8:30 to 10 o'clock time frame really seems less daunting when you explain it that way. So this is deceiving when you look at this. So pre-recorded lessons from a teacher really should not exceed probably 15 minutes maximum, maybe less for younger age kids. So, saying like, okay, from 8:30 to 9, your child needs to watch this 10-minute lesson as many times as they need to. So maybe they need to watch it 3 times. And if they need to only watch it once, that's fine. And then from 9 to 10, there are 15-minute blocks of small group, so that it's like clearly defined in the actual schedule. So I know what my student is responsible for. And then me looking at it, I don't feel like this gives me anxiety to just look at this chart.
That's a great suggestion, Marlene. It's a great
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Adriana Serrano?
Yeah, I actually really like this schedule from another teacher perspective. I think it's great. I think it's feasible. It's doable. It doesn't, I don't think it's too overwhelming at all. It's very similar to kind of how I had set things up in, from April or whatever on. And I think that having the small group instruction on there and being able to meet with students one-on-one virtually, like I don't have any hesitations about that. Whereas if we were fully in, I would be very nervous about getting close to those kids and being able to really give them what they need. Obviously, we would want to be fully in, if this weren't going on, there'd be no questions. But unfortunately, we don't really have a choice in that as far as the virus goes. And so I just feel like I would be able to actually work with those students who really need that one-on-one support a lot easier. And I did do that in the fall, and it was really nice. Like it was really nice to be able to just, schedule or have open hours or just schedule a time when a student was struggling. So I love that that allows for time to do that. And I love the breakout rooms. I think that it would really ease my mind knowing I could still give those services to those students who really need it without stressing about being really close to a student, masks and the virus in general. So I really like this schedule. Like I said, I think it's really feasible. I do think it would be great to, for the teachers who need it, like Marlene had mentioned, to kind of break it down a little better. Of course, if it says reading from 8:30 to 10, never would you teach an hour and a half, a whole lesson, but for parents to know, maybe there's a half an hour of us, office hours in there where you can meet one-on-one, or we're going to run small groups, this group on this day. So I do like, maybe breaking it down a little more, especially for parents who, might need that, a little bit more of a breakdown than having just an hour and a half chunk. So
one thing that I would like to mention, I can't remember who mentioned it, but many of you said multiple children at home. The district did just make a significant purchase in technology, and we do plan on being one-to-one for all students in the fall. So every student will have a device. K-5, they will be touchscreen. 6-12, they will be non-touchscreen. And then teachers, we are also in the process of making a purchase. Every teacher will be issued a 14-inch touchscreen Chromebook that folds all the way over. That is a little dicey because there are significant delays in shipping and all of those things. So we may not have those for September, but we are anticipating that we are going to get our shipments for students within the next, they're going to ship within 2 weeks. So that was a lot of good news. That, you know, Mr. Darga, Mr. Mihalik, Ms. Keith, and our school board worked tirelessly to try and make that happen, and talked to 100 different vendors and did 100 different things to get it. So that was a little bit of good news in all of this that we did want to share, because that is a concern, I think, from a lot of people's standpoints. You have 5 people at home. You had access to technology and easy access to technology on March 13th, but then March 17th came and there was no longer easy access to technology for all 5 parents or all 5 people in the house. So hopefully that will ease the burden just a little bit. And then it will help with both student and teacher accountability. You know, teachers can say, hey, we know you have a device. Parents can say, hey, I have access, all of those things. And our tech department worked with people as well to ensure that they had connectivity, so that there weren't connectivity issues. So we hope that that will kind of ease some of the tensions at home as well, when you have multiple kids in multiple areas.
I think Sue Clark, I don't think I think I saw your hand go down and up. Did you want to add something else?
I did. Thank you. I was hoping you'd catch it. So I think knowing that it would be more of like, if this is just up to me to do this for my child, it is overwhelming. Having the recorded things or having Zoom meetings or whatever in between those times definitely makes it less overwhelming, and that makes more sense now that it's been explained. And I thank you. And when you know, I would think that a lot of parents would probably feel that way just at a quick glance, going, oh my gosh, how are we gonna, I don't know that, you know, I still think it obviously is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge to get my kid to sit in her room in front of a computer and do all this. And I know that that's just that's how it is, and I get it. So that it makes more sense that way. And I mean, I don't know, thankfully I'm not a working outside of the home parent probably. So it's not my concern. I have to believe that parents who work, this is, you know, going to be, the struggle is going to be.
We lost you, Sue.
Kathy
I've
C.
got something, Steve and Kathy. It's Elizabeth. Yeah, at first glance, I think the organization piece as a teacher, I appreciate and I understand. The organization piece as a parent would be overwhelming to me. When I hear that there'd be breakout sessions and things incorporated into these hour-and-a-half chunks, that makes more sense, because personally, my kids don't go to AP district, but I don't want them on a device from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. I don't think that's healthy for a kid. And I think that it's going to really depend on a parent or grandparent or a caretaker to make sure they're on it all the time. So if it was like, we're reading from this chunk and I'm going to meet with these 5 kids during this time, I think that makes more sense. So I think if we're going for something like this, we need to break it down further so that it isn't so overwhelming and scary.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Kathy C. I think I saw yours go down and come back up again too. Is that
correct?
Okay.
I have 2. So first, I think one of the best things about this is like when you have both the teacher giving live instruction and videos, is that if a student needs to go back, say when their parent gets home from work and they're doing something and they don't understand it, they can always go back and watch the video again. But my second thing is back to bouncing off of Karen is, and this is kind of a question for you, Kathy, John, and Mike. If we do go 5 weeks, would we be able to meet to kind of go over what our schedule would look like as the, in our programs?
Yeah.
Because it would look way different.
I think, Kathy, that's kind of the big question that we have for our special populations. is it going to look the same? How is it going to look different for teachers? How is it going to look different for kids? I think that that's kind of the big question that, we're going to have to ask. And then, like, would it be best to bring some certain groups in? Like, maybe, but then do we get into well, you're only bringing students with disabilities in, like, that seems wrong. You know what I mean? Like, yes.
Ideas. So I would love to be.
The answer to that is yes. We're trying to be mindful of all of our groups of students, but then look at what is going to work. Because, when we asked those surveys, you ask 3,800 people something, you get 3,800 different answers sometimes. And so we'd like to try and get a plan that is palatable for everybody, and then see how we can fit our groups in that plan doesn't quite work for, but is there a shell of something within that plan that we can, work with? Yeah.
Thank you.
If I can I also think it's important to remember that, for our teaching groups, the buildings are open. And for, small, grade levels and all that to get together and socially distance in an area of the building. Because again, Zooms are great, but it's not everything. And a lot of times it's great to be able to get into your room and look at some of the materials, things like that, and then kind of create a grade level plan, if you will, or a department plan to be able to move forward. So
that was one more question I was going to have is, would we have access? Like, I don't want to, it's more of a personal of what I would do in my classroom. So we can talk about that later, but I just wanted to make sure I would still have access to go in and get my things that I would want to use for that week or whatever and trade them out each week.
Yeah, and there's actually some discussion of, again, inviting the teachers in the buildings during this time, so that they're actually within the building and have all their materials needed. Some classrooms are fully set up and ready to go for video type, shooting or editing, for our parents and our students. So the buildings will be open for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rachel?
I just want to say that as the teacher in me loves the organization. Yes, it is overwhelming and it is daunting looking at it. But the teacher/parent in me, looking at the professional meetings, that they're always from 8 to 8:30 for everyone, that would have put my 3 children, myself, and my husband who's working from home all on Zooms at the same time. And inevitably, someone always got kicked off. So that's just something to think about too for families with multiples all Zooming at the same time.
Deb Green?
First off, amazing to the tech department and everyone involved. That is phenomenal. That's a phenomenal feat to have one-to-one for everybody. And I am just my heart is so warm hearing that you guys advocated and did that, because I think pandemic or no pandemic, this is a generation of tech kids. And so to have that kind of technology access is absolutely huge. So props to you guys. Great job. That again warms my heart. And again, just providing thoughts and options while we're talking about a 5-week delay. When I look at a schedule like this and we talk about the different types of learning, such as, the different applications that kids could use, by starting in person and actually being able to meet those teachers could provide the teachers an opportunity to teach the students those applications and utilize them within the classroom. And then that way, when an online virtual learning setting hits, there's less of that learning curve. Because to me, I think when you start with new applications, you're looking at least 1 to 2 weeks before things kind of start to run smoothly. So in a 5-week delay start, I already kind of see, if everybody's on board from the very beginning, you're looking at losing potentially 1 to 2 weeks. Until you get that seamlessness. But if you did start school and the kids were able to have their hands on the different apps that the teachers were planning to use in a virtual setting, then when going to a virtual setting, I think the kids might have that opportunity to almost teach the parents and be like, oh, I know how to do that, or I know how to submit this because we've already been submitting this in school, and kind of having that wherewithal. So just, again, an idea. So, but great job, tech department and everybody else.
Karen, I think I saw your hand go up and then down again. Maybe? No?
No, it was an accident.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm always jumping in here. It's Elizabeth again. What I'm thinking on the flip side of what Deb is saying, I think that I understand what she's saying of starting and then setting up those things, but I'm thinking that what the kids really are craving are those social interactions. And so I think that regardless if we're there virtually or in person, I think making sure that we like are doing small groups where they kind of are working together without us and then coming back to check in or whatever. If they have some people to depend on, yeah, their whole group can teach us what they've learned.
Yeah, okay, so we do have a few other topics here today, so we could probably limit our comments to maybe a minute or so we can move on to our other topics here in the interest of everybody's time this afternoon.
I just have actually one more, Steve. You want Julie's got his last hand up.
Yep.
Okay, I concur around the comment of the fantastic news around the one-to-one ability to get technology. I think you guys have again rocked it. Arno staff, Island Park staff, just you guys are amazing. You guys set the bar really high for other schools. I would say when I tell other parents what you guys are doing, they're so jealous of our staff and everything you guys are doing. So kudos to you guys for making that possible. I would also echo the sentiment around the need to teach the children the technology and the start of school like in the fall timeframe, so that in the event that the governor puts another stay home, stay safe type order in place, our students are enabled and ready, and then also have that affinity with the teachers that I think is really crucial in the beginning of the year. That's all I had.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey, Steve, actually, Megan Johnson just put her hand up, and I know she hasn't had a chance to speak about this. We'll let her go real quick. Maybe.
Okay, I'll be really quick. Off of Deb's, I know that like right now with the numbers and indoor, and if they're going one-to-one at some point, they do have to pick up that Chromebook. Could we possibly do like a scheduled time of whether it's like a setting of 5 kids and they're spaced out more than 6 feet apart, or if they are 6 feet apart, to do that small workshop and you get to meet your student. Something interactive and allowing you to still learn the technology at the same time.
Very interesting.
All right. Good suggestion, Megan. Thank you. Anything else, Kathy? Anyone else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. That was great. Thank you very much for your input. There's a lot of thought from the parent perspective, from the teacher perspective. There's a lot that's going to go into it for sure. So great points, everybody. Thank you so much. All right, let's hop back to the agenda here, which looks like it's grown longer. Before we get there, I just wanted to show you this really quick. This is the COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. This is the plan. It's like 21 pages or whatever it is. It's going to be going to the board eventually when it's completed. The board has to approve it, and then it's going to be submitted to Wayne County RESA as well. And I believe next week, and maybe Mr. Darger, if you want to just kind of talk about like what the next steps are for all the participants of the focus group in the district.
Yeah, excellent. So one of the things that I was telling the teams is next week, I'd like to be able to host a Zoom with all participants, that's secondary and the elementary teams. And kind of what we plan to do is obviously thank everybody for their contributions. And then just kind of really go through the 20-page document. It won't take as long. We won't need to focus on everything, but we do want to hit the highlights before we present it to the board. Because obviously we're taking a lot of notes. If you see the agenda even today, whoever's taking those notes, and I want you to know that I'm glad I was able to sit in today and listen, because it's great to hear the parents' perspective as well as our teachers' perspective. I see a lot of the notes, the agenda notes, stuff like that, but that's the nice thing about these Zooms is, even though it's a virtual interaction, to hear the different perspectives and thought processes makes me also administratively think a little bit differently. Even the example of the Rochester plan and stuff like that. And again, it's one sample of hundreds that are out there. But it is interesting to hear a parent's perspective because, obviously, my kids are not doing this. They're older now and out of college. So I always look at it, I'm just seeing the graphs and putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I don't live it. where our teachers are living it and our parents definitely live it. So that perspective is greatly appreciated. But next week, that's the idea. The idea is to kind of, thank everybody for being a part of it, reviewing the actual plan that we're going to put together off of all your notes. And then also talk to people about, we have to do a board presentation, and that's going to be on Monday, August the 10th. And as you know, those are all virtual presentations at this time. But we are going to be asking for volunteers to help kind of talk about the plan. And I'm going to be asking our facilitators from the elementary as well as the secondary, the administrative team, to have a role in that. But I'm also looking for some parents, and it could even be teachers that are parents or whoever it may be, just to talk a little bit about, the group they were with and how that group went and some of the work that they did. The board hears from me and Dr. Tefelsky all the time, and I think that this is a district plan, and I would love for some of our people within the district, both staff as well as parents and families, help present the information. So, and I'm really good at when people don't volunteer, I usually will just then pick people.
Voluntold.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out. But honestly, this is beyond me and beyond my office. Again, this is something that we are all, creating together. And we also know that some people will be for the plan, and there will be some people opposed to at least ideas of what to do. And those are things that we will work through.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Darga. Let's go back to our agenda here. We are now going to go really briefly here to arrival and dismissal. So some feedback here we're kind of looking at, you've been to the buildings when everyone's coming at 8:30 and everybody's leaving at 3:30. What are some thoughts on, how could we reduce some of those numbers or, scatter them about or otherwise make that more efficient to separate kids in a better way? Oh, Kathy, you're muted.
Sorry. Marlene?
Yeah, I think so. Just to kind of preface, so I teach high school in Livonia, and I have been working on our plan all summer also. So I have a little different perspective also from the secondary side. But one of the things that we did to kind of minimize some of the interactions is adding a portion of asynchronous learning to every day for every student for the whole year, so that kids like you can stagger the times that they come in, you can stagger the times that they leave, and not lose instructional hours, because that every day they have something that was like pre-recorded, or even like an Edmentum, like self-paced, or some kind of expectation like that, so that you can mess with your timetable a little bit that way.
I think one of the questions we had too, Marlene, was from a parent perspective. If you have a kindergartner, a fifth grader, and a sixth grader, I'd be interested to hear some parents thinking about that, because as we were talking about the asynchronous learning, again, Mr. Darga and I have a kindergartner, but I only have one kindergartner. So Mr. Darga and I don't have 4 kids. God bless you. What does that do for you from a parent perspective if we have 4 start times for 4 kids, and they're, even if they're only 5 minutes apart, that still could be a 20 to 30 minute span for kids. So as people are thinking about that, if they can just address that point too. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but
Sue Clark.
Oh, that was fast. What they were saying as far as the different times, if we did more of a last name or family than grade level. I don't know if that works as far as hallways and rooms and all that, because you probably have to come in and go in different directions. But I mean, that could potentially help the parent side of it, so that they're not waiting 30 minutes to drop off 4 kids or something. I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
By families or people carpool. I mean, and that's, that's another thing to think of too, that you know, other families help out other families. So I don't know if that helps or just something to consider.
All right, thank you.
Linnell?
Hi, my kids ride the bus, so I don't know how that would work if they were coming at different times since they're all on the bus, or they're not going to be buses this year. That's my question.
There are going to be buses, correct, John or Mike? Yeah, right?
Yeah. But that's a great point, Linnell, that you brought up. And again, it's something that, you know, sometimes we'll put these ideas out there, you know, and again, from hearing from parents about, hey, listen, you know, with busing, if you've got kids going to one elementary, all, you know, K-5, how is that going to work? So that those are definitely things that we'll take notes on and make sure we work through that as well.
The poor Wilson kids would be standing outside for 20 minutes until we got to the W's, right?
Yeah. Right.
Just let us know in February how that's working out for them. But, you know, I mean, kind of for Sue's idea, like you could say like families A through H are coming in now, and then, okay, all busing kids are coming in now, and then you continue through. So like it's, but I would have never thought about, oh, what about the buses? How do we get all of those kids in? We would have just, you know, I would have said like first grade comes in at this time, deal with it. So
Exactly.
that's why it's great to hear from parents, because now we can cohort busing kids and say you enter at one time if that's a direction that we go in. So thank you.
Yeah. And I have to echo that exactly. I mean, you know, I'm just being honest. You know, again, I think busing's coming in this time, and you know, we're not necessarily the parent who has to deal with it. So it's great to hear those perspectives, and that's why we're happy to be able to sit in and listen to this type of dialogue.
Yeah.
Because now we think that whole thing. Great job, Linnell.
Well, and as far as the buses go, I mean, are the buses, we're assuming that it's just, I don't know how packed the buses are. I mean, is it going to be everyone can ride the bus that rides the bus, or is it going to be, is there enough room to spread kids out on the bus? If I don't know how that's going to work.
Okay.
You have to sit next to your sibling.
Yeah.
Deb Green?
Taking a note out of travel baseball that we have experienced this summer, they started staggering start times for baseball games, so there wasn't traffic going in and out at the same time. So one game might start at 9, another one at 9:15. So in thinking about the buses, if you have that asynchronous learning time that could happen either at home or in the school setting, that could be online, you could look at potentially trickling in the buses, not all at once, but maybe having one come in at 8:30, one coming in at 8:37, one coming in at 8:44, or whatever, and kind of staggering those times, but then the kids have independent learning time. So when they're leaving in the afternoon, they resume that independent learning time at the end of the day. Again, not losing instruction time, but almost staggering the ins and outs of things. So it wouldn't impact families necessarily who have K1-3 kids, because if that asynchronous learning time is built in at the beginning and the end of the day. Some kids just may start it earlier at the beginning of the day and end it earlier at the end of the day, and other kids may come in a little later and leave a little later. Just a thought.
All right, Steve, that's everybody who has had their hand up at least.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item here in terms of scheduling lunch, and you know we're kind of knee deep in taking a look at that, and specials. You know, from the parent perspective, you know, what makes you comfortable in terms of your child's lunch experience, you know, during these times, as well as for specials. You know, what would you be looking for as a parent? What would be a good fit? What was a good fit in the spring? You know, maybe some feedback on that, and then also from our teachers.
Marlene?
So I have to be honest, like we were very overwhelmed with school, and the specials did kind of take a back seat. You know, we did a couple of the projects, but I felt like we were not that invested in the specials virtually. So I guess I don't really have a great suggestion of like easing that other than, I don't know. I don't know. But in person, in terms of, you know, I mean, obviously we all want our kids to do those things and they love those things. So however you can space them out and do them outside and whatever you can do to maintain them, I mean, kids look forward to that. And I know they do, but they didn't want to do them at home. They were just tired of doing school, even if it was art or gym or whatever. They just wanted free time.
Sue Clark.
We also kind of did not do the specials. It was just hard enough to get through what we had to. And so specials at home did not work out well for us. As far as in person, I would have to assume that, I mean, the lunch couldn't have happened as we know it, that it would have to happen probably in classrooms. I would, for me personally, I'm fine if the kids had to go to the building, you know, go through the building, they go to another room for special, you know, they were able to do that for like art class, you know, maybe.
Sue, we're having a really hard time understanding you.
Outdoors, that would be, you know, a better solution. But I'm fine with be in the school if, you know, and you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, me, I'm fine with that sort of environment.
Hey, Sue, we're having a really hard time understanding you. You might want to go into the chat area and maybe type out kind of what you just covered there. It was really muffled. So sorry about that.
Linnell.
Hi, we also only did the specials that either weren't real time consuming or not messy, because I'm not big on doing a whole bunch of messy stuff. But I am not really in favor of the kids never leaving the classroom, so I would prefer that they still went to the lunchroom. At least, I don't know, maybe you can just do a couple classes at a time, or I don't know how that would work, and still get outside a little bit, because I mean, it'd be really hard if they never could leave their classroom for anything. I know it's gonna be hard, like safety wise, but those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Adriana.
Yeah, personally, I feel like it would be very nerve-wracking having the mix of kids in different rooms with a very short break in between, with, from what I understand, no new proper health and safety protocol that has been told to us as of yet. So that would be very worrisome to have the kids mixing amongst that classroom in specials rooms, and then especially in the cafeteria when there are other classrooms in there. From a virtual perspective, you know, mixing in live with the pre-recorded videos might be a good idea for specials as well, because if there is a special teacher live, I think that would kind of help with engagement, and building more time in for specials, like in that schedule. Not to say that we should be taking away any time for reading and math and whatnot, but I do think that they are just as important. I really do, and I think that the kids need them. And so I think that building in more time for the specials in a day would be beneficial as well. I think it would really help, not adding on to, because both of those parents had expressed that it was too much, and so then adding on, we didn't really get to it. But to make it more balanced, I think that that would be a really good way to do that, so that if we are virtual, they would still be getting their specials.
Thank you. Kathy C.
Sorry. I was actually going to say the exact same thing, that as a teacher, I wouldn't want the students, I think it's nerve-wracking to have them 5 classes a day are going into one room. And I mean, well, I'm talking from just my personal, as a parent now, I don't want her eating in a lunchroom at all. I don't even know if I want her eating in a classroom at this point, where she's around other children, not social distancing and not having a mask on. So for me, I don't really know what a good solution is for in-person luncheon specials. That's something I think that during this time when it's nice out, it's very easy to go outside, but what do we do once that is not an option any longer?
Deb Green.
From a parent perspective, just kind of agreeing with a lot of people, we did specials on the weekends. We didn't really have time during the week to get there, particularly with my learner who struggles. I do like the Rochester schedule where it actually has it blocked out, because I think that'll kind of help parents. And if you don't finish it, you don't finish it within that time. Like it is what it is. I do like the idea of specials teachers traveling to the particular classrooms versus having the kids travel from classroom to classroom, and then possibly do outdoor when at all possible for lunches, like even picnic lunches. I know that's not an everyday thing that's possible because of the weather, but truly figuring out a way where the kids can space out, or even just having lunch in the classroom. We kind of joke, it's a serious joke, it's not really a joke, but with my son who plays travel baseball, that if we ever got quarantined, we're just all going to quarantine together, because we've all been together. And so I think the more that you keep one class together, the better that is, because then that's really the only group that's getting exposed to that group at that time during the day. And when you do go back classroom to classroom and travel around the building, that makes a big difference. But having certain, doorways as full exits to get out for recess and certain doorways as full entrance, a lot of that tends to help. So.
Lisa.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am a specials teacher, and I am the phys ed teacher at Arno and Benny. So I'm looking at it, and I also taught 4th grade for 24 years. So I have the classroom eyes as well as a special. This isn't a question, this is just a statement. As our kiddos are not one, they're all different, and specials are all different too. So I just think when we say specials, we kind of need to consider that. Working in a computer lab on a computer is very different than singing in music class and playing sports in gym where they're running and they're sweating and they need drinks of water. So that's just a statement. I think we just need to kind of consider each special as a unique entity. My other thought is, as a special teacher, I see 6 classes a day. So let's just make the average 30 kiddos in a class, times 5, times the whole week. And I go to 2 buildings. So I liked in Rochester's schedule how they were on a rotating schedule. So, normally if pre-COVID on Mondays, I start my work week at Benny. And then I go to Arno on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I'm back at Benny. And Friday, I'm back at Arno. I would like to see more of a consistent, maybe for 3 weeks I'm at Benny and 3 weeks I'm at Arno. So those are just some things that just some thoughts. I know Sarah's taken some messages, so thank you. And another thought, I'm on some phys ed, a lot of, as all teachers are on learning channels and whatnot, a lot of the phys ed teachers, kids can't touch the equipment. So, an hour of phys ed is Rochester's schedule is, where without playing games and they can't touch equipment, that's a lot of exercising. I mean, I'm exhausted when I go out for an hour. It's great, but just to kind of think about that. And I love the Rochester's plan. It's awesome. the Rochester's plan of where the special is included in there. And I like how it was broken down into the younger kiddos and the older kiddos, because what I do with my young fives, my 5th grade boys and girls don't want to do. So just some thoughts about that. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lisa.
Marlene?
Yeah, I don't think that we have addressed this, but I think the people's answers to lunch and specials and a lot of these questions might change depending on if there are limits on class size and how many parents are choosing 100% virtual for the whole school year. So I think if you have a class cap, that seems like reasonable and safe to most parents, then you're probably going to get a lot more parents sending their kids to school. So,
yeah.
And then Adriana, I think your hand went back up.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put it down. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, Steve. That's everybody.
That's everybody. Okay, great. Found my cursor here. Okay. All right. So under transportation concerns, it looks like a couple people have already chimed in on that in relation to, what if we have a staggered time kind of system going. But what are some other safety concerns as you may send your child on the bus to school?
Megan?
This isn't really bus related, but it's kind of in the same concept as like latchkey, how the kids are intermingled with other age groups. So if latchkey is playing a toll in that, I'm not sure if that's transportation or if that's arrival and dismissal, but it's kind of the same concept, but you're just not on a bus.
Good point.
Adriana?
Yeah, I guess this is more of a question. I know we don't have like full busing, like for example, Livonia does, for their elementary, they have like 75 or 80% of their students that ride buses, but I don't really know the number at all in Allen Park. I've only had a few 5th graders through the years take the busing. But my question is wouldn't there possibly might need to be a staggered start time if the students needed to be spread out on the buses anyway? Because like, would we have enough? And so I don't know. I have no idea about busing at all, how many buses we have and how many kids we have that take them, but just a thought, I guess.
Right. Good thought. Thank you.
Deb?
I think assigned seating on the bus would help. I think it would help for parents to feel more comfortable if you knew your child was in the same seat, and having sanitizers going in and out. Like we were down in Myrtle Beach before the explosion of numbers in Myrtle Beach, but they are very open and out and spraying things down. And I think just having the buses be able to spray things down, but also as a parent, just knowing my kid is in the same seat every time and kind of that's their seat. And I know buses pick up multiple groups of kids, but I still think that would, if you kind of told a kid this is where you sit, it reduces that mingling and hanging out and jumping from seat to seat.
Marlene?
Yeah, I think that the assigned seating is a great idea, and also asking the parents what children in their neighborhood they already play with outside in the neighborhood. Like the kids that my kids ride the bus with, they already play with 5 or 6 of those kids at the park sometimes. So I would assume that masks are a requirement on the school bus. But if my kid is wearing a mask and sitting next to or near her sister and a kid she already plays with at the park, then, that's fine.
And Sue, I know you have your hand up, but we've had such a hard time with the connection. Is there a way you can put it in chat?
Can you hear me better now? Because I switched to my phone.
Now you can. Yep, you got it.
Okay. I was like, I bet now they can hear me. So I put it in chat. I just wanted, as far as the specials, I know it's backtracking. if the concern of specials at home is the parents would need extra supplies for some of those things like art projects and stuff like that. And it would put an extra, I don't want to say use the word burden, but sort of. And I mean, so that was basically my point of the specials, is that that's one of the things that is difficult, because not every parent has everything on hand to do all that. But as far as busing goes, it would, I mean, I would say the same thing with, you know, like everyone else has said, all seem like reasonable expectations. Hand sanitizer, masks, similar, you know, same groups of people. That all makes sense.
All right, Steve, I think that's everybody. I think that's everybody.
Everybody, okay. And Sarah and Kathy, if you, or even John or Mike, if you want to throw in something here. Mask protocol. So I know per the plan, K-5 does not have to wear them in the classroom, but they have to wear them when they are traversing anywhere in the building and on the bus kind of thing. So are we just looking for some feedback on thoughts on masks in the classroom, or you know, face shields, that kind of thing?
I think a big thing would be, you know, if there is, because I think a concern is, well, what happens if a kid's not wearing a mask? So I think that from a parent standpoint, honestly, you know, what are the thoughts? Is it like, well, if a kid's not wearing a mask, we immediately throw them out the window? You know, we work with them. There are a myriad of things that we can do, from, you know, a zero tolerance policy to a lot of leniency. But what are the feelings from parents? I mean, we're very limited in what we can do because of the return to learn plan. But like, what protocols, I think from our standpoint, maybe what protocols are appropriate if a student just refuses? Like, is that just an immediate send home? Like, we just can't tolerate that because it is the health and safety? Or you know, are we still looking to be as restorative as possible with students? And I don't know that there's a great answer there, but what is the best bad answer we can come up with?
All right, Adriana, you're up.
Yeah, I think that would be really hard to monitor and handle. I don't really know. I feel like, and then if you allow it for one, then, you know, you have a whole class that's not wearing masks. But K-5, I can't imagine not being there without having everybody in masks. There's a reason why that businesses require masks to enter right now. You're in a confined space where there is very little air circulation, especially in our classrooms. On the flip side, I also feel like I don't even know if I could go all day on one of those 90-degree September days wearing the mask. And I would be really stressed out not wearing it, but I don't even know if I could like feasibly breathe with it on. There's days where I am literally dripping sweat and it is so hot in my room. And opening one or two windows when it's even, you know, it's worse in the classroom than it is outside. It doesn't really help. So this is a huge concern for me, wearing it and not wearing it. I just don't really know how to go about it if we're fully in. I just kind of like, I don't know if I would feel comfortable either way. I don't really know what, you know, I just feel conflicted about it, so.
Okay.
Beth?
It kind of goes in this area. This mask protocol is one of my biggest concerns, because my whole thing is intervention, small group, supporting teachers in small group, putting my aides into the classroom, working with them. And to be in, I've gone through the numbers that I have, and the least amount of classrooms I could put one aide in is 3. So she would be jumping between 3 classrooms. And to be in a classroom where the children aren't wearing masks, so she's potentially got 90 sets of germs that she takes home each night from being in that classroom. And to say, you know, I need you to work at the back table, you can't sit 6 foot apart. You can't hear the little ones read. Are we going to be getting the plexiglass dividers for the back tables so that at least there's some sort of separation? And I just really am not comfortable with I know that's horrible to have a mask all day, but can we ask the children to put on masks to come back to the table? Like, you're coming back to work with, Mrs. Wesley or whoever, the teacher, can we ask to have them put the masks on? Will there be plexiglass? Like, how can we make that situation safe? Because I think it's super important that it continues once we get back in face-to-face. That small group has to continue. The teacher has to hear them read. I have to hear them read. The aides have to hear them read. But how can we do that safely?
Marlene?
Yeah, I think too, obviously there's probably not a lot of kids that this falls under, but when you're talking about, what do you do if someone is not wearing or whatever, one of my daughters, she only has really one ear. And so like wearing a mask for her is a real challenge. And she does wear it when we go places, but those are short time periods. So for her to wear it all day long, because she also wears a hearing aid on that side where she doesn't have an ear. So like logistically, I would hope she wouldn't get kicked out of school because she couldn't wear a mask all day long.
Yeah, I think, that was, I was coming at it from more non-compliance, not.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I get that, but I do think that it's very fair and reasonable to say if a student is approaching a teacher that they should wear their mask for those 10 minutes. I mean, that's reasonable. I also feel like the class size question is very important in this also. If the kids are generally sitting spaced out from each other all day long, then I'm pretty okay with my kid not wearing a mask all day. But
right.
If they're jammed together like they were, which they loved, by the way, and they still love, then I would want them to wear masks all day. So my answer depends on what the class size caps are.
Thank you. Kathy C?
I'm kind of bouncing off Adriana and Beth. I too don't feel comfortable approaching a student without a mask in my classroom at all. I don't feel comfortable with them not having them on, because even if they're spaced out, I still have to walk in between all of them, and I still have to teach all of them. So another thing was my daughter being around other students without masks. I don't want her in a classroom where masks are not mandatory. That's just something that makes me feel uncomfortable. I've worked very hard for 6 months to try to keep our family quarantined, and sending her to school is something that I'm really, really struggling with. And if we're not going to have smaller class sizes and there's not going to be social distancing and not masks, I just don't feel that's a safe environment for myself or my daughter at this point.
Karen?
Mine is, I just want to give the exact same opinion, just so you know, a lot of teachers are on the same page as this. Everything, all the data shows we should be wearing masks. The students should be wearing masks. We should be wearing masks. It's something that needs to happen, and we want to feel safe in the school, and that's just something that it should, to me, to even think that they're thinking students shouldn't wear masks, or teachers or anyone, is just, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I hope that that's taken into account when that decision is ultimately made, is that, I mean, a lot of us really want that every day, especially when we're going out into the public and bringing my family places, and they're all doing it there, and then they'll go into school where they're with 30 kids in a classroom possibly, and then they're not going to do it there. It just doesn't make much sense. So I hope that that is something that we end up doing.
Thanks. Lisa?
Hi, I'm just going to piggyback off Beth. She was talking about her aides and that they would be in 3 classes and see, 3 times 30. So again, I'm a specialist teacher here. We're going to see 6 classes. So for me to imagine seeing 6 classes without aides without masks is very scary. But then I'm that crazy PE teacher and those kiddos have to exercise. So on the flip side, how do they exercise with the mask? So that's a concern of mine too. Thank you.
Sue, I see you, Elizabeth. I'm just trying, I see you.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So the whole mask thing, if children do need to wear the mask, which as a parent, that's fine. If we can kind of make it a fun thing for the kids, have like, wear this color mask, or, some sort of like fun thing to make it not so scary for the kids if there's concern over that. I don't know. If my kid has to wear a mask all day, that's fine. Then I'll make sure as a parent to she'll have fun masks to wear that she loves. And if we can make it like a fun thing, that maybe that's an easier thing for parents to try to get their kids to do this, try to make it fun. It's elementary school. They're little kids.
Deb?
One thing we talked about in the subcommittee group is alerting parents to have kids practice with masks prior to coming into school. And I think that would be key. And we also, kind of going off of what was just said, talked about how there might be like a 5-minute portion of the morning where it's like mask time, where everybody gets to talk about their masks and look at everybody else's masks, because it could be a very distracting thing that happens. And then going off of what Marlene said, does the school plan to have masks available? And if they do, are they looking at multiple versions, such as surgical masks, but then also the gator masks? And the gator masks are fully around the neck and mouth versus behind the ears, so that could help to accommodate for students who couldn't have them behind the ears, but would prefer to kind of have them just more around the face. And then one other thought was, if specials are traveling from room to room potentially, when considering the aides in the smaller groups, would maybe those specials rooms be available to have smaller group setting in a more spread out opportunity, so that you're not sitting directly across the table from somebody, but you could have like a group of 3 or 4 and have considerable distance in between. And I know travel to and from the classroom and all of that plays a logistical thing, Beth, because usually you guys are group after group after group after group, and that travel time would definitely impact that. But that could be a possibility to still get that small group, but in a setting where there was much more space.
Deb, just to answer your question, the district does have masks available for people who are going to be in close proximity to others. We have 1,000 KN95 masks that were actually tested and approved. The vendor was actually tested and approved by the FDA. We have 10,000 surgical masks available to our students for use, but I think it was Sue's point, we think that it would be better for students to bring their own masks and wear their own masks from home. I think that would make it more comfortable. I think that they would be more responsive to it, but in the event a student doesn't have the mask across the district and needs it, we would have those available. And then we also have masks that we ordered today for teachers that have the clear mouth. So they go all the way around your face, but then they have a clear plastic opening over your mouth so that kids can see the teacher's face.
One option we may need to look into, though, Deb, and I'm glad you brought it up, and one thing we didn't think about was those gator masks.
Mm-hmm.
For students that might need that extra or prefer that, or even staff. So that's
what my daughter wears when we do go places. So
that,
it does
like,
work.
which is good, and that's something that we definitely, that's not been on our list to order, but I do like the fact that it was brought up. We can definitely add into looking to a vendor for that as well.
It also, I can just say too, sorry, about the gator mask, it also reduces like putting it down or like anything like that. Like my kids just leave them on their neck. And then when we go in, they put it up. When we leave somewhere, they put it down. So there's no like germs getting all over the place.
All right, Elizabeth.
I just wanted to kind of echo Lisa's comment that I think it's really important that we protect all of our teachers. And if some of us as teachers have a limited group and then others are seeing hundreds of people a week, I mean, I can't go to a movie theater right now, but I'm expected to go into a building with hundreds of kids, and without masks, I just don't see the medical or the scientific backup that makes any sense on that. So I think it's really important that we're hearing from parents, definitely from teachers, but I think that within our this whole 20-page guideline that we're going to go through next week, I'm curious, do we have like any kind of scientists or MDs that are going to be looking over that as two on this team?
Wayne County Health is consulting with Wayne County RESA and going to give guidance on things like what happens if we have a positive test. Like, we don't really have any control over that. That's going to be Wayne County Health. And on the return to learn plan, I know that there were MDs and scientists on that. And that was, the recommendation was no masks K-5. So I'm not making a judgment on that. I'm just stating that.
Okay.
Beth, I wasn't sure if you had something additional to say or if you had just forgotten to put your hand down.
One thing I was very happy to hear John say that he ordered the masks with the clear plastic, because for phonics with the little guys, it's like, how can you show them how to make your mouth?
You'd love it, Beth.
I love it. Yay.
I had Beth Wesley scrawled on all of them.
I know she's going to like those. But the other thing too is, I think, John, just to go on the other thing that you said, I think maybe there's been so much more research done that maybe, like originally they had kind of said maybe face shields would be okay, but then a ton of research came out. So I think that even though there were doctors that, helped with the plan, I think the new research is maybe why we have to change some of the things a little bit. But yay to the mask with the plastic.
And then the last one, I think Kathy C. put her hand back up.
I was just gonna piggyback off of what Deb said. I didn't find, my friend who's a social worker found these amazing stories that I put on my Facebook page, but I'm gonna share it to my classroom one. My name is, but I didn't want to do it till we have an official plan. But it's just stories of wearing the masks in school, why you have to wear a mask. They're amazing stories, and they're all free. So I mean, once we have a plan in place, and there are teachers, and they work for special ed students, but they would also work for kindergarten and first graders, I think, as well. Just so teachers have that to go over if, the masks with the students, because I do think it's going to be, I think that I was talking to someone yesterday and we said, we teach them how to sit in a chair and we teach how to, masks are just going to be something I think we have to teach.
Yeah. I will say, I think that, you can see my mask on and we wear them in the office when we're with each other. So we are obviously, doing what we can with masks. But being the person that's getting contacted about virtual learning, I have had a not insignificant amount of parents say, if my child has to wear a mask, I do not want to send them to school. So I don't necessarily think that needs to be a driver one way or the other, but there is there is that other side of the conversation that we have to
right
consider. And it does,
I'm the exact opposite.
my daughter,
if my child doesn't have to
wear a mask, I'm going, I understand.
I'm that parent too.
I just want to make that.
Me too. They're not going without a mask.
I do want to make that point just so that they're.
Of course, yeah, you have the both, and that's what I don't want your guys' job for anything right now. You guys have some big decisions to make.
For sure. All right. Anybody else, Kathy?
Nope, we're good. Go ahead to your last topic, Steve.
All right, last topic of the day here. So, visitors on the Return to Learn plan are somewhat kind of sort of discouraged, into the building. There may be some cases, though, in which we may have to, allow somebody into the building. So, and this may be more for, for parents, obviously. As a parent, knowing that we have a lot of precautions up, what would still make you feel greeted and welcome into the building, understanding that there's going to have to be a lot of precautions taken?
Marlene?
I mean, I just want the kids to be safe. So if that means that I can't come in there, then I can't come in there. So I feel like that's way more important to me than you know, I really like your Dropbox situation that we have at Benny, or I don't know if the other schools do, where I can drop things off. I let them know it's there. You know, they're always very nice over the PA. I feel like unless, you know, like I know my daughter, for example, like you have education related visitors that need to come in, like she has a consultant from wherever that comes in, her hearing consultant. But I mean, outside of educationally related guests, I'm fine.
Sue?
Lindeman people know I'm, you know, would go into the school daily. And if it meant that we can't do that, that's totally fine. And I think if parents just are told that, I mean, that ultimately it's the children's safety that is what's most important. And as far as, you know, then like PTA, that kind of also touches on PTA involvement and stuff like that, that it's just kind of, you know, it's just put on hold and we just have to get more creative and do things a different way is all.
Deb?
So I recently went to the eye doctor. I've been to a lot of places, but the eye doctor had something kind of unique where they had like a door, just like all of our entryways. And then there was like this little room area with, you know, other doors to get into the building. And so at the eye doctor, when you came into the building, you actually had to come in and sit within that area. And then somebody came out and took your temperature with a no-touch temperature thing and ensured that you had a mask on before you could enter the building. So if we were going to have people enter the building, that may be a good area to kind of stop people at within that right initial area before they even come into the office. Because I think once you hit the office, it's huge, lots of open air. But they had a few chairs set up there. It was very, like the doors were locked, so only people with keys could actually get any further. And then every time somebody left, that area was disinfected. So that seemed to work really well and kind of be easy. And I think if parents knew that, obviously with the drop box outside, that would discourage the number of people, you know, coming in for issues that could be handled other ways.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to add to that? Otherwise, it's got everybody.
I'll just add also, like, if I'm picking up my daughter for a doctor appointment, I don't need to come into the office. You know, you have a camera there. I can show you my ID. You can send her out.
Perfect.
We were actually thinking the exact same thing, Marlene, from a school standpoint, talking about what Deb had said with our vestibules. You know, we can always buzz if needed, but I agree with you with all of our surveillance in the cameras. You know, we can easily identify our parents or visitors, grandparents, and send them out, or we can have them step into the vestibule. The doors are locked anyways; they can't get into the office. We can then send, you know, depending on the age of the child, obviously into the vestibule. So that works really good.
Okay, Kathy, anybody else?
Nope, you're good, Steve. Wrap it up.
Okay, does anyone have any final thoughts here before we close out our meeting today?
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick again. I really appreciate everybody. It was great sitting in today. Very, very informative for both John and myself. And, you know, it gives us a different perspective to when we're working on these plans and thinking of things, have a little bit of broader view. So again, that's greatly appreciated. And to both our parents and our staff members taking time out of your, you know, summers and away from your families to assist in this process, you know, we greatly appreciate. You know, this is a big decision. There's a lot of moving parts to these decisions, and a lot of people, you know, of course, there's the people for, you know, staying home. There's people, you know, all for coming to school. So it's not an easy decision, but it'll be a well-informed decision. And again, thanks for being a part of that.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Final thoughts?
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. This helps us a lot, and just know that we're going to do what, you know, members, and so we're, you know, worried about our own children, worried about the kids of Allen Park, worried about, you know, our families, and worried about the teachers. And so, you know, we're taking these decisions very seriously. It's, you know, weighing heavily on us. I mean, you know, if Mike gets more than 2 hours of sleep a night, I'd be surprised. I'm, you know, at least second in command here. So there's somebody else. There's one more door down, but please understand that these are not easy decisions, and we appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, it's not easy. And again, because we have to have our administrator hat on, but we're also parents, and speaking on behalf of a daughter who has extremely compromised immune system, and all the precautions we have to take on her behalf, that's always in the back of mind too for the other, as well as staff members who also have the same compromised immune system issues, as well as our parents and family members. So again, there's a lot of moving parts, but please know safety is always a priority.
All right.
This is just a logistical question. I know that there's subcommittees that exist for different areas. Is there a thought of if the subcommittees need to meet again? And if so, do we have an idea when, or are we just still kind of relaxing for a bit on that?
So so we do have there may be a need to meet again, and I think after we learn a little bit more about the plan and kind of where the board is and doing our presentation, even next week, when we do our full blown Zoom, there might become things out. But I think that the team will definitely stay intact. I'd also like to use the team that's here, especially our parents, and to kind of create just more of a district wide committee. And in that way, we can always do the check-ins and stuff like that, especially knowing that, I'd like to be, again, for example, if we were to go with the delayed start, 5-week delayed start or slow roll, let's say we would meet with this group again, and say, okay, we've got a tentative date October the 5th, look like by October 5th, do we need to extend it? Those are the kind of discussions we may need to come back and have.
Because Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, like the slow opening, if for some reason we got to September 30th or October 2nd and realized things were going in the wrong direction, we would look at possibly extending that, correct?
Yeah, correct, yes.
All right, great. Any other final thoughts?
You guys, I have one more thing. I'm so sorry. I know it's late and we want to get out of here. I'm just going back to the specials. I should have thought about this, but it's just coming to me now. Currently, I have 5 special teachers, not just me, sorry. We have 5 minutes in between classes, and our last class of the day, there is no time between classes. So just a thought about looking at that schedule, because 5 minutes, and this of course if we're face-to-face, is not a lot. And then at the end of the day, there's no time. So just if that could be a consideration, just a talking point. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Okay, anybody else, Kathy?
I don't think so.
That's okay. Well, hey, we're right on time today. So
thanks, everybody.
60 minutes, but better yet, I got you out in time for dinner. I just want to echo what's already been said. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is really, really important work. Student safety is going to be job number one, as we enter into the fall. And just looking at all these notes, what an incredible conversation we've had here today, and a lot of great stuff to think about. So thank you very much. And it sounds like we'll probably be all together sometime next week. So looking forward to that. And if I could just have the admin team just stick around for a couple minutes after. Everybody else, have a wonderful Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Steve and John, could I talk with you guys sometime once we know more about assessments for the beginning of the year? I'm just trying to plan for what that could look like and how we might be able to accommodate that or adjust it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, see you, Beth. Bye-bye.
You want to stop recording this?
Yes, 1 second. Let's see.
Stop video on the bottom of the screen.